following Jesus, he'd separate them. He'd say, you know, I'm going to die on a cross. If you're not willing to go with me, don't follow me. And that'd separate people right there. Because they didn't want to go to a cross, because the cross was a place of Roman execution where they executed criminals. And he said, if any man come to me and hate not his father and his mother and his wife and his children and his brethren and his sisters, and yea, his own life also, cannot be my disciple. Now, of course, this is an idiom of preference in which Jesus is using an exaggerated statement in order to put across a point that God is to be first and foremost in our lives at all times, even above your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, or even your life. Christ is to be first. And he said, if you're not willing to make that decision and not willing to make that choice, you cannot follow him. And then he goes on, and whosoever doeth not bear his cross and cometh after me, doth not bear his cross and come after me, cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest happily, after he hath laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, all that behold it began to mock him, saying, this man began to build, was not able to finish it. In other words, Jesus is saying, if you're going to follow me, sit down and count the cost. Because the people that followed Jesus were young. He was a young man himself. Jesus died at 33, and on this occasion he is on his way to Jerusalem for the last time. And if you take Luke from about the 13th chapter and the 31st verse to the 19th chapter and the 27th chapter, it has to do with this journey that carries him through various parts of what we call the Holy Land, on his way to Jerusalem, to the cross, to die for our sins. And you know, when we deal with young people today, there are three kinds of tensions I find among young people. First, there's the tension between youth and their elders. They think that they're standing in their way toward a better life. And the real test of this generation has not come yet. The real test of our generation is still to come, because our world is facing some ominous storm clouds. The armament race, the creeping hunger in the world, and the cries of the hungry in many parts of the third world that do not have enough to eat. And whether we like it or not, we're going to have to listen to them, because they're getting more and more and louder, and we cannot go on with extreme rich and extreme poor. And our generation has not yet faced up. The new generation has not yet faced up that you will have to carry the burden. You're going to have to carry the burden of the mistakes of my generation and the generation just past. Because you see, we've built up a gigantic debt for you to pay. The interest on that debt at this moment is $60 billion a year, just the interest. And somebody's got to pay it, and you're the ones that have been chosen to pay it. We have not lived up to our means. And the debt's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And $400 billion are being spent on arms in the world. Somebody can push the trigger that can destroy your generation. And those are the terrifying things that face you. And you haven't faced up to it yet, and neither have we. And I, for one, am ashamed at what our generation has handed you, and the problems we've handed you, and the mistakes we've made.